Welcome to the Future of Payroll and Workforce Management Insights by HR.com, your go-to resource for insights into payroll and workforce management. From navigating compliance and technology trends to exploring the latest in global payroll solutions, we're here to keep you ahead of the curve. Join us as we dive into the forces reshaping payroll and share practical strategies to optimize your workforce management. Let's get started. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Future of Payroll and Workforce Management, a podcast here at HR.com, where I am your host, Brent Skinner. I do many things here at HR.com, but today is about my guest, David Martin. Hello, David.
Hello there, Brett. How are you?
I'm great. And how are you?
Excellent. Excellent. A little bit chilly down here in Florida, but I'm not going to complain given the state of the rest of the country. So,
Yeah. Well, you know what? There was a little bit of poetic justice there, actually, because you're only about 5 degrees more than what we're going to be later today up here in New England. So,
yeah.
but, but yeah, I was happy to learn that you guys actually have heating systems down there in your homes in Florida. So I wasn't as worried about you, David. But in any event,
Yeah. No worries.
yeah. So yeah, and you are owner of My Benefit Experience,
Yep. Correct.
and you help companies with, pet benefits when it comes to their employee benefits, and we're going to get into that and what that's all been like in the past. It's been kind of a bit of an evolution in that space. But first, as I like to ask all my guests, is what got you into your line of work, David? How, obviously there's some passion here. What's going on?
Sure. It kind of an accidental, approach to getting into the pet space. I actually have been in the employee benefits space, human capital management, whatever you want to refer to it as, for 40 years. This year it'll be. And the last 5 years spent in the employee benefit or the pet and pet space, pet perks. I actually reference them as, and I wound up in that because I was recruited by a company that was looking to stand up a group pet insurance product back in 2021. And they needed someone who had benefits experience to help them do that. So we did that. We stood that program up very successfully. It's still running. What I learned in that time frame in setting that up, and then ultimately going into a role that was more around developing strategic partnerships, helping organizations leverage pet perks, pet insurance primarily as a differentiator for either their employee population or for their product suite of offerings. And I realized very quickly that pet insurance wasn't the only thing that employees and individuals were looking for to help solve for their concerns that surround them and their pets' relationship. So, and ultimately, that's how I came to believe that there's more than just pet insurance when it comes to pet perks, and started really researching and developing relationships with other entities that serve the pet population.
Yeah, yeah.
But
It's fast.
yeah, but
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
you mentioned passion. I mean, it's
Yeah.
definitely a lot more fun to talk about your pets than it is to the traditional health insurance renewals. So that's definitely how passion builds, and a
Yeah.
pet owner myself,
Yeah. What kind of pet do you have?
I have a 14-year-old Schnauzer mix who is still very active for being 14 years old. But I've always had dogs, whether when I was a kid or after moving out of my parents' home into my own, and ultimately being married, having dogs. Been primarily a dog person.
Mm. Yeah, I love dogs. I have a dog, a Sharp Bull Terrier, which is part Shar Pei, part Pit Bull, but she's just mostly mostly Shar-Pei in the face, and just a funny dog. She's just slightly younger than your dog, holding up well, really well. And, also have a cat, a black cat that I adopted, for my
Oh,
daughters
great.
at the local yeah, the local humane society, and this she's like a three-year-old cat. She's really,
Yeah,
really friendly, really nice.
that's
Um,
awesome.
eh yeah, yeah, and, it's really funny to think about because this is you know, 20 years ago or whatever would have been, there's at some point that wasn't too long ago when, benefits at work for your pets just was it was kind of out there. Nobody kind of even, really expected it or, if you encountered it, you're like, wow, I never even thought of that. Right. And now we're in
Yeah.
this new sort of world now with this. And maybe that's a good place to start here, David. I mean, pet insurance uptake is, it's often low, I mean,
Yep.
not
Yep.
everybody has a pet, so that's a factor too. But
Well,
what's
70%
yeah,
of households have a dog or a cat, so it's a big portion of the population. So yeah.
that's true. Yeah. And so, I mean, so what's the biggest misconception employers have when they treat it as the
I think
pet benefit?
the biggest misconception that they have is that if they enter into the conversation with their employees around providing them pet perks, that they're going to have to open up their doors to let dogs come to the office. Oh, if we simply offer pet insurance through a discount platform or a link out strategy, that'll suffice. So that those are the two big misconceptions, that employers have. Um, Actually, I think the third is the which is really even bigger than any of it is not recognizing that pet ownership is really more of a cultural component in this world. I mean, pets are so close to us. We spend so much time with them. The human animal bond, is just an amazing thing. So I think, underestimating the importance of a pet is a big misconception that an employer makes.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Especially here in the United States, where we have there's quite and of course in Canada, North America, there's quite the affinity for our pets. Um, but in terms of pet insurance itself, um, employers they kind of treat it as the pet benefit. But that's just really the starting point, right? What's
Sure.
going on there?
Sure. Again, what really drove me to go out on my own and work in a consulting fashion with organizations was the ability to think about all the things that would concern an individual that has a pet. Some people are concerned with their pets getting lost. Some people are concerned with what's going to happen to my pet while I'm at the office during the day. Other folks are more concerned with, the wellness component, the proactive approach rather than the reactive approach to managing a pet's health, where a wellness plan would come into play. Some folks want to have access to 24/7 care if they could, and that's very achievable with virtual vet care today, and even AI being infused into that.
Mm,
That's very achievable. So, I mean, there's really not anything that you couldn't think of that supports a pet that couldn't be offered in some way, shape, or form as a pet benefit. So, what I really suggest to any organization is to look at leveraging a pet perks platform that can house any of those things, and not, over tasking the employees choices
yeah.
by putting everything in there, but consider, a multitude of offerings rather than just simply saying, okay, pet insurance is going to solve the problem. So
Mm, yeah, yeah. It's not just a checkbox to, take care
absolutely
of. It's
not.
Yeah, it's something to
Absolutely.
actually, to think about a little bit more strategically. Um, Maybe this might be a deeper dive into what you were just sharing, but if an employer wants to start small, say they're new to pet related benefits for their
Yep.
employees, right? What are some of the foundational perks that create the fastest engagement, like and widest inclusivity? Like where's a good place to start where it's going to kind of bloom from there quickly?
Yeah, I would say that starting with a low price point thing like virtual vet care as a benefit, it's
Yeah.
much easier to administer. Pet insurance has variable pricing, which is complex in the enrollment process. So where virtual vet care actually has a singular price point. So it's much easier to enroll in and administer. So
Right.
I would say that that's a great place to start because generally it can be offered for less than $10 an employee a month, where insurance on your pet is generally going to be more like $60 or $70 a month. So
Right.
and a lot of times, what happens is individuals who get concerned over what's happening with their pet ultimately go to the vet when they could have easily solved or triaged something in talking with someone. And the
Right.
technology and the AI has gotten so good to the point where diagnoses can actually be made pretty easily, someone can talk you off the ledge very easily to say, you don't need to run to that 24-hour vet because, ultimately your pet is going to be fine, or do these couple of things and, that'll mitigate anything worsening and so on. So I would say tele-vet, and then if maybe take a step into the world of wellness, you know what I mean, and offering a wellness strategy coupled with virtual vet care. And if an employer wants to dive deeper, then they start to get into pet insurance. But there's a complexity to offering pet insurance that usually keeps the enrollment numbers down quite low within an organization. So
Yeah, that's interesting. You talked about, um, sort of telehealth almost for pets, but also I'm hearing, I'm old enough to remember the term online forums, right? But
yep,
this
yep,
is sort of AI assisted chat rooms where you're speaking with other pet owners and sort of crowdsourcing some of this information, and that it's AI assisted and it's actually helping to to diagnose pets and this sort of thing. And so that's honestly that's employee engagement, which is really interesting, right?
yeah. I mean, You you brought up a good point about employee engagement. I mean, that's the biggest challenge an employer has today is how do we get the most out of our employees? How do we keep them happy at work? And there's so many ways and so many avenues that are tried and failed within that attempt to keep the employee engaged. But quite honestly, if you think about it, 70% of households having a pet, and the amount of attention that a pet provides to you as a human being.
Right.
If an employer chooses to engage in pet perks, offering pet perks, they're going to get much more engagement out of their employees than they likely would by offering that disability,
Right.
or life insurance product that, especially a young person who feels invincible doesn't see any value out of.
Right.
So I'm even an advocate for employers taking a look at their contribution strategies around pet perks and the other benefits that
Mm.
they're offering that don't drive any value and don't drive any greater level of engagement out of an employee, and consider maybe paying for that 24/7 televet
Mm.
benefit or perk.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, and it can be that is a good place to kind of focus energy. I have so maybe you could share with us, I don't want to put you on the spot too much, but, maybe just an example of if you worked with a client maybe that, was just trying to figure out its pet benefits situation and, what did they do? Like, how did you help them get started?
Well,
Where did they start? Yeah.
yeah, ultimately, so a good example is working with a large employer, 10,000 or so employees that had been offering pet insurance for years, and was really frustrated that they couldn't see the participation levels go above really a 1% penetration level. They were saying, well, this just doesn't, should we continue to offer it? Should we abandon it? And all that. And we had the discussion, and I explained the whole concept of having greater employees, the employee bandwidth having more than concerns of the need for pet insurance, but other things like, the 24/7 tele-vet or wellness or dog sitting or cat sitting services, all those different things that can be offered up as a pet perk. And then was able to introduce them to a platform where multiple pet perks could be offered. So they wound up infusing that in, off continuing to offer the pet insurance, but in conjunction with some lower price point. The televet and the wellness, access to dog sitting services. And the irony of it is their pet insurance enrollment numbers tripled. They on almost quadrupled. So they were in the nearly 4% penetration on in the insurance portion alone.
Mm,
So it not only did it create and solve for a multitude of concerns that a pet owner would have, but it took and elevated those people who didn't necessarily see the pet insurance offering before, or maybe thought, well, at a price point of $60 a month, or not knowing what the price point is because it's a variable pricing mechanism that's utilized. It actually brought them to the Pet Perks platform and had them look at everything and then ultimately say, I can afford that pet insurance, and it does make sense to have it. So the point of the offerings, you know, uh, solving a multitude of problems and having lower price points isn't just to say that you're going to get more people enrolling overall. It's actually increased the level. So for a pet insurance company, that's music to their ears. So that's why I work with the pet insurance companies too, to really consider not just offering their pet insurance as a pet benefit, but some other ancillaries around it as well.
yeah, and I would imagine that those companies have been evolving and becoming a little bit more dynamic in what they offer as well, correct?
They are and they aren't. I mean, it's insurance companies have a tendency to stick to the core of competency that they have, and so, but in this age of embedded strategies and even now we start talking about agentic commerce and all that. Carriers have to think differently. They have to start looking at different ways to attract the client, and help elevate some of their participation numbers so that they can remain profitable in the products, and that they're offering. So yeah,
Mm,
so I can help in all, with all of that.
yeah, it's really interesting. There's a whole world around this that a lot of folks aren't necessarily aware of, and I want to thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast and helping
Sure,
to
sure.
sort of inform our audience. Thank you, David.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and happy to join again anytime.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in to the Future of Workforce Management and Payroll Insights by HR.com. We hope today's episode brought you valuable insights and fresh perspectives on the future of payroll and workforce management. Be sure to check out more episodes and explore resources at HR.com/podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts. Until next time, keep innovating and making a difference in the world of payroll and workforce management.